Also, potentially, when you get rural residential areas, you get different land, you get hobby farms. So what are the sorts of issues that are going on with hobby farms? People having horses on there and so forth. But these areas here, of course, adjoin or abut quite rural areas by the looks of it. So what's going on there? Are these farms, or are they public open space, or are these farms viable to use because they're so close to urban areas? Because a lot of urban uses conflict with rural uses. You tend to find is that years ago, this area here, this whole area here, would have been probably farmland, most of it, and people could spray their pesticides to their heart's content, spread their animal manures to their heart's content. But you start getting an urban area next to that, and the people start going, oh gee, we don't want spray drift over our home, or we don't like the smell of your fertilizer on a Saturday morning, and things like that. So there's those sorts of issues going on. And of course, there will be issues, potentially these areas are supplying food to these urban areas, the rural areas here. So how do we keep these rural areas sustainable agriculture? All these policy issues. Another thing I see here is I see shapes, right? A lot of these blocks, see up here, all the blocks are square, right? But why are they rounded? So there'll be issues here relating to these rounded shapes. And these rounded shapes, more than likely, are water bodies. Okay, so these will be swamps, because I don't really see too much drainage going on. We can see some fairly major drainage things going on here, and inlets and so forth down here, but I don't see those in these areas. So there's going to be a whole bunch of issues about urban areas draining into here, potentially these areas smelling, potentially the critters in here moving in to these urban areas and protecting the urban areas from critters, and protecting the critters from the urban areas. So there's these sorts of conflicts that are potentially going on. The other thing I see is shapes down here that suggest to me that this is coastline. Of course, well, I put this course together, so I know it's coastline, but even if I didn't know that, I would be thinking, oh my goodness, that's obviously an inlet there, and there's coast going on in here. There's going to be issues relating to development along the coast, stability of sand dunes, a whole bunch of things like that. There's going to be issues of urban runoff going into these inlets. So how do we protect these inlets from poor quality stormwater? There's going to be issues here if I look at the shape of this. See, a bay area like this, or an inlet area like this, is quite different than an open area of coastline, such as this, all right? Because these areas don't flush as much or as easily. So there's going to be issues of stormwater hanging around. There's going to be issues of these water quality issues. There's going to be issues of people wanting access to these water bodies, like for boating and recreation and so forth. There are so many things that you can tell just by looking at a map like this. And here's another one. Look at this wide, it's obviously a road reserve, and it's obviously for a major freeway. So this is saying here that there's some sort of transport connection. Like if it's a freeway, it's going to mean, well, gee, there's a major freeway going through here, or a major road. Potentially this opens this area up for transport-related services and so forth. Warehousing, storage, and all these sorts of pressures that are going to be placed on the area. Commercial uses along the main road, and so forth. So I can tell a whole bunch of things just by looking at the shape of this map. And I want you to start thinking about these maps in these terms, because once again, if you think you're just going to get a technology project or a technology lesson from me, it's not quite what you're going to get. I see the technology as a tool for a GIS analyst to use, and I want you to start thinking of yourself as a GIS analyst rather than a GIS technician, because a GIS analyst is going to produce maps that are far, far more useful than just a pure GIS technician. And it's not to say that there's not places for GIS technicians, but I'd like you to think of yourself as a GIS analyst. Anyway, that's me signing off for now. So how about you open up Quantum GIS and open up this map and have a quick look around it yourself.